Christmas is often imagined as a familiar scene of decorated trees, exchanged gifts, warm gatherings, and joyful songs. Yet behind these modern images lies a long and complex history, stretching back nearly 2,000 years. The story of Christmas is not a simple, unbroken tradition, but a tapestry woven from ancient beliefs, political decisions, forgotten rituals, and cultural exchanges. Understanding this history helps us see Christmas not only as a religious celebration, but also as a reflection of how human societies remember, forget, and reshape their past over time. The earliest Christians did not celebrate the birth of Jesus at all. For the first few centuries after Jesus' life, his followers focused mainly on his teachings, his death, and his resurrection. Birthdays were not considered especially important in Jewish tradition, and many early Christians even viewed birthday celebrations as a pagan custom. Instead of marking a date for Jesus' birth, early Christian communities concentrated on living according to his message and preparing spiritually for his return. As a result, there was no Christmas holiday in the earliest Christian calendars, and no agreement on when Jesus might have been born. The idea of celebrating Jesus' birth began to emerge gradually, influenced by the world in which Christianity was spreading. As Christianity expanded into the Roman Empire, it encountered a rich landscape of festivals tied to the seasons, agriculture, and the movements of the sun. One of the most important of these was the winter solstice, the shortest day and longest night of the year. For many ancient cultures, this moment symbolized the turning point when darkness began to give way to light. Romans celebrated festivals such as Saturnalia, a time of feasting, gift-giving, role reversals, and general joy. Another popular observance was the celebration of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, which honored the rebirth of the sun after the solstice. By the 4th century, Christianity had gained official recognition within the Roman Empire, and church leaders faced the challenge of guiding large populations who were accustomed to these traditional festivals. Choosing December 25th as the date to celebrate the birth of Jesus appears to have been a strategic and symbolic decision. Although the Bible does not give a clear date for Jesus' birth, December 25th aligned closely with existing solstice celebrations. By placing the birth of Christ on this date, Christian leaders could reinterpret the symbolism of light returning to the world, presenting Jesus as the true light of the world. In this way, older pagan traditions were not completely erased but transformed and absorbed into a new religious framework. Early Christmas celebrations were very different from what we recognize today. In many places, they were deeply religious events focused on church services, prayers, and reflections on the mystery of the Incarnation, the belief that God became human. There were no Christmas trees, greeting cards, or colorful decorations. Instead, the emphasis was on spiritual meaning rather than outward celebration. In some regions, Christmas was even considered a minor feast compared to Easter, which remained the most important event in the Christian calendar. As Christianity spread across Europe, Christmas traditions began to absorb local customs and folklore. In Northern Europe, pre-Christian winter festivals had long included evergreen plants, which symbolized life surviving through the cold and dark months. Over time, these evergreens became associated with Christmas, eventually giving rise to the Christmas tree tradition. However, the Christmas tree as we know it today did not become widespread until much later. In medieval Europe, people sometimes performed mystery plays during the Christmas season, dramatizing biblical stories for largely illiterate audiences. These performances brought religious narratives to life and helped shape popular understanding of the Christmas story. The Middle Ages saw Christmas develop into a more public and communal celebration. Feasting became central, and the holiday often extended over several days. Lords provided food and drink for their communities, and social boundaries were temporarily relaxed. Elements of Saturnalia lived on in these customs, including the idea that Christmas was a time of generosity, forgiveness, and shared joy. At the same time, religious observances continued to shape the season, with Advent serving as a period of preparation and reflection leading up to Christmas Day. Not everyone approved of how Christmas was celebrated. During the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century, some reformers criticized Christmas as being too influenced by pagan practices and excessive indulgence. In certain regions, especially in parts of England and later in Puritan-controlled New England. Christmas celebrations were discouraged or even banned. Authorities argued that there was no biblical command to celebrate Jesus' birth and that the holiday encouraged immoral behavior. For a time, Christmas nearly disappeared from public life in these communities, surviving mainly in private or informal ways. Despite opposition, Christmas eventually returned, transformed once again by changing social conditions. The modern image of Christmas began to take shape in the 18th and 19th centuries. Industrialization, urbanization, and shifting family structures played an important role in redefining the holiday. As people moved to cities and traditional rural communities weakened, Christmas became a time to emphasize family unity and domestic warmth. Literature had a powerful influence on this transformation. Stories and poems presented Christmas as a season of kindness, charity, and moral reflection. One of the most influential works was Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol, which portrayed Christmas as a time for compassion, generosity, and personal change. Dickens did not invent Christmas traditions, but he helped shape how people emotionally understood the holiday. Many traditions that now seem ancient are actually relatively recent. The modern Christmas tree, decorated with lights and ornaments, became popular in the 19th century, especially after being embraced by royal families and public figures. Gift-giving, once a minor part of the celebration or associated with other feast days, became central to Christmas, particularly for children. This shift was connected to changing ideas about childhood, which increasingly emphasized innocence, wonder, and emotional care. Christmas became a time to create magical experiences for children, reinforcing family bonds and social values. The figure of Santa Claus is another example of how Christmas traditions evolved and blended over time. Santa Claus has roots in the historical figure of Saint Nicholas, a 4th-century bishop known for his generosity and care for the poor. Over centuries, stories about Saint Nicholas mixed with European folklore, including figures who traveled through the sky or delivered gifts during winter. In the 19th century, especially in the United States, these elements combined to create the modern image of Santa Claus as a cheerful, gift-giving character. Popular illustrations and advertisements further shaped his appearance and personality, turning him into a global symbol of Christmas. As Christmas spread around the world through colonization, trade, and media, it continued to adapt to local cultures. In many non-European societies, Christmas traditions blended with indigenous customs, foods, and music. In some places, Christmas became less about religious belief and more about cultural participation. This global spread also contributed to the increasing commercialization of the holiday. Businesses recognized Christmas as an opportunity to encourage consumption, and advertising played a major role in defining how Christmas should look and feel. Decorations appeared earlier each year, and shopping became a central part of the season for many people. This commercialization led to concerns that the deeper meanings of Christmas were being forgotten. Critics argued that the focus on buying gifts and creating perfect celebrations overshadowed values such as generosity, humility, and reflection. Interestingly, this tension between spiritual meaning and social excess is not new. Similar criticisms appeared in earlier centuries, showing that debates about the true meaning of Christmas have existed almost as long as the holiday itself. Many older traditions have faded or been forgotten entirely. Practices such as extended communal feasts, public storytelling, and religious dramas are far less common today. Even the idea of Christmas as a season lasting several weeks has largely been replaced by a focus on a single day or a short period. Yet traces of these older customs remain, hidden within modern practices. The emphasis on light during the dark winter, the importance of generosity, and the idea of renewal and hope continue to shape how people experience Christmas, even if they are unaware of their ancient origins. In recent times, Christmas has also become a moment for reflection beyond religion. For some, it is a cultural holiday emphasizing peace, goodwill, and human connection. For others, it remains a deeply religious celebration centered on faith and worship. These different interpretations coexist, sometimes comfortably and sometimes in tension. This diversity reflects the long history of Christmas as a holiday that has always been shaped by the needs and values of each generation. Looking back over 2,000 years, Christmas appears less like a single tradition and more like a living story, constantly rewritten. It began not as a clearly defined celebration, but as an idea shaped by symbolism, politics, and cultural exchange. Over centuries, it absorbed local customs, faced rejection and revival, and adapted to dramatic social changes. Many traditions were forgotten along the way, while others were reinvented or given new meanings. What remains consistent is the human desire to find light in darkness, hope in hardship, and connection in community. Understanding the forgotten traditions of Christmas does not mean rejecting modern celebrations. Instead, it invites us to see them more clearly and appreciate their depth. When we recognize that Christmas has always been a blend of old and new, sacred and social, we can engage with it more thoughtfully. Whether celebrated as a religious feast, a family gathering, or a cultural festival, Christmas continues to carry echoes of its long and complex past. These echoes remind us that traditions are not fixed objects handed down unchanged, but living practices shaped by history, memory, and meaning. In this way, Christmas remains not just a celebration of the past, but a reflection of who we are and what we choose to remember.